What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk on the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you with a preview of the Packers and the Colts game this week on Sunday as the Packers look to bounce back after their Week 1 loss to the Eagles. And joining me to talk about all things Packers and this matchup is my lovely, apparently shocked co-host at something outside, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well enough as this game gets near.
Yeah,
Starting to get a little nervous.
yeah. Uh, Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you are probably plugged into all things Packers. Jordan Love diagnosed with an MCL strain, likely grade 1 or 2. The Packers expect him to be back within the next 3 to 4 weeks, as they do not put him on IR and instead just list him as doubtful for the week. I believe it was Tom Silverstein had reported that despite all the mind games from Matt LaFleur, that
Coach speak.
yeah, all the coach speak from Matt LaFleur, Love is not anticipated to play this week, so it will be Malik Willis going in. Um, So we'll have that. We'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute. But first and foremost, we have to talk about cheeses for these for last week's game against the Eagles. So as a refresher, Jordan, do you want to tell the people how these cheeses work and how we decide them?
We got three cheeses that we will hand out.
Mm-hmm.
It can be all over the map, as I had to remind Numac.
You don't gotta tell the
It's
people. I didn't
I'm
forget.
just saying it's week one for everybody, including us. Um, we hand it out to everybody. It's basically like think of it like three stars of the night in hockey. The top three players that I would say defined the game for the Packers. The Packers' overall performance in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yep. So as part of those cheeses, we have 7 candidates after week 1. First up is Jaden Reed, 4 receptions, 138 receiving yards, and a touchdown, and 1 carry and 33 rushing yards with a touchdown on 48 total snaps. An 89.2 PFF grade, the second highest rated PFF player, according to PFF, on the Packers, I believe. Next up is Xavier McKinney, 4 tackles, 3 which are solo, 1 interception for 17 yards, and a pass breakup on 76 snaps, a 76.2 PFF grade. Braden Darvison, 3 for 4 on field goals, made a 31, 23, and 26, but missed a 43-yard field goal, and 2 for 2 and extra points. Zach Tom, 67 snaps, 0 penalties allowed, and 0 pressures allowed on 43 pass blocking snaps, the highest graded Packer at 92.0, according to PFF. Elton Jenkins also played all 67 offensive snaps, also allowed 0 pressures and had 0 penalties on the same amount of pass blocking snaps. He only got a 78.4 PFF grade, however. Keyshawn Nixon, 7 tackles, 6 of which were solo, 1 sack on 3 pass pressures, allowed 4 catches on 5 targets for 45 yards, a 65.4 PFF grade. And last is Ezrin Cooper, only played 11 snaps, but 3 tackles and a pass deflection, an 85.9 PFF grade, the highest grade on defense. So, Jordan, why don't you tell the people where you're standing on your who you think should for sure be getting these cheeses?
I got two locks
Okay,
for
I
sure.
think you and I have the same 2 locks.
Yes, one. I mean, let's not even beat around the bush. Jaden Reed was
Yep,
top lock, stock, barrel.
yep,
So we're gonna cover him in green
yep. He gets the first
because
cheese of
that
the night,
first cheese of the night.
first cheese of the
Welcome.
season. Nice job, Jaden Reed.
Uh, second lock, I would say Xavier McKinney.
Not the other lock I had.
Oh, then we have two up for grabs. Who is the other lock?
My other lock was Zach Tom.
Let's get it to him.
Yep. My locks were Jaden Reed and Zach Tom, and I was in between giving the third one to Elton Jenkins or Xavier McKinney, because Xavier McKinney, while he had the interception, uh, didn't grade out well. I'm trying. Let me see if I can pull up the what his numbers were in coverage, but the defense kind of got gashed uh, during the
I
game.
got 81.2 PFF grade for tackling,
Hmm.
76.4 coverage grade for McKinney. That was the highest out of any Packers defender, by the way.
It was
And then
only
the
one
run,
reception for 8 yards, right? Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
that is what I'm seeing. Obviously, when you're a safety, your primary assignments are going to be either tight ends or
Hmm.
the occasional running back.
Right.
Um, Run defense grade for him was 54.3, which is kind of average, median, below
Yeah.
average, actually, now that I'm looking at it.
Trying to see if I Xavier McKinney had 35 run defense snaps. So take that how you will.
Yeah.
I mean,
As we speculated too, there is a lot of not a lot of rotation, I would say, when it came to the secondary,
hmm
like snap counts as we talked about last pod,
hmm
it was pretty much riding with the guys
hmm
that they had at pretty much all times.
right. Um, Alan, Zach Tom had a really good run blocking grade, 93.2. Um, Elton Jenkins had a less good 74 for a run blocking grade, a stark drop off from Zach Tom. Um, so who was your third candidate for yours? Obviously, you had Xavier McKinney as your other lock.
Third one was gonna be this is gonna be my toss up. So now we're kind of I included Braden Narvis, and I know it was on a perfect night, but I thought no.
No, I can't give a cheese if you miss a field goal, especially like 43. What was it, you said 43 yards? I I just can't. I need to see him make all of them for before he gets a cheese. You know what I mean? Because like that
Make all field goals for the rest of the year?
no, like in a game, like that field goal mattered, right? It mattered at the end of the game to where
Well, then they would have lost by two.
I understand that, but it like the how you play out the rest of that game matters.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
again, this is me. it- this is looking for candidates past the first two
yep.
locks that I had because
So
are you going to give
here
it to the
here
kicker who's going to give points? Are you going to give it to good supporting pieces like an Elton Jenkins? Keyshawn Nixon, not for nothing, I thought had a good game, even if that grade is kind of like meh.
right. I get that. Um, so Braden Narvison misses the field goal at the 17, 17 seconds left in the third quarter. It would have made it 29-31. The next drive is the interception. I believe who had gotten that one.
Jair.
Yep. So he gets the interception. They go down and kick another field goal. They would have been up 32-31. So I think that series plays out a little different in how that goes. You know what I mean? They then
I
they then only need to get a field goal versus a touchdown at the end of the game. I think that changes a whole lot.
true,
And
true.
like we let like the whole Anders thing from last year is like just missing critical kicks, right? Culminating in the 49ers game. This was a critical kick in this game. Like it mattered. They left points on the board.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So like
I would say not to fall harshly on this our rookie kicker. There's a lot of points left on the board with this offense
oh,
too.
a
So it was
thousand percent. Which is like
that's where
which is why if we don't want to give it to EJ, I'm fine giving it to Xavier McKinney. But like the
who
guy
would you rather give it between those two?
that's the problem is I really don't know.
Yeah,
Because we're giving one to Zach Tom, but we're not gonna give one to EJ for the same exact thing, just despite a lower PFF grade. You know what I mean? Like we're not very serious analysts, right? We're not watching the game back
I
and
am the
looking,
most serious analyst
and we're
that
not
ever
watching
been
every
born on
run
this earth.
blocking snap to see how EJ performed and how Zach Tom performed, right? Ultimately,
No.
how if they get home to the quarterback is the one of the most important parts of blocking in the NFL. EJ performed at Zach Tom's level on that scale, then like he performed at the same level and wouldn't get a cheese for it is a bit like splitting hairs, I think, and just relying off of a PFF grade. But at the same time, Xavier McKinney made an impact play, got an interception to start the game. Like that's an important part.
And not
So
for nothing, I mean, the other person that I debated heavily about including, but knew better in some ways, Josh Jacobs, if you look at his final box score line, was great, had big impact plays, but you're not going to say we saw the first 2.5 quarters. We
exactly,
saw, yeah, I mean,
exactly. Like I was thinking about putting him just to like be like a candidate, but I don't think he's even a candidate considering that if he just gets inside the 5 yard line, this game is a blowout. You know what I mean? Like I just think
yeah,
that's the way this goes. This is where watching the game matters versus box score watching. Not that I'm
and
saying.
really, as we will probably get into,
Mm-hmm.
do we want to reward the defense that gave up the fourth most total yards?
That's also a important thing
Not
to
that it
monitor.
all falls on Xavier McKinney or Keyshawn Nixon or whoever else,
Yep,
but this is not a perfect. There's a lot of caveats. It's one game, but
exactly.
this is how it is with cheeses. Welcome everybody to the cheese.
Welcome.
Um,
I think. Go ahead. Actually, go say what you're gonna say.
you're making a better point for Ellen Jenkins.
I think that's like where I was leaning. Is that in the grand scheme of things, he didn't allow a sack, he didn't allow pressure. We're doing the same thing for Zach Tom. Xavier McKinney did really well, and I think we ought to be sure we're giving him cheeses throughout the season, even if he doesn't make um, interceptions, etc. But ultimately, he's one of the best players on the defense, and they gave up a whole lot of yards.
He might be the best player of the defense, if you're asking me. Anyway,
I don't think that's a that's
that's
a
definitely not a hot take.
no, that's not a hot take at all. But yeah,
All right. Well, that is it. Our cheeses
I
for
wish
week
I
one.
wish we gave out four because like I think Xavier McKinney is as
4. It was hard enough for
no,
3.
I'm saying like the like if like we would give a fourth to Xavier McKinney. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I think he's deserving. I just struggle when they score 34 points, even though a lot of that was on the
Don't hate
ground.
the player, hate the cheese.
That's right. All right, Jaden Reed,
And we
Zach
certainly
Tom,
don't hate the
and
players here.
Elton Jenkins, you all receive cheeses for the week. Congratulations. So, after all of that, let's hop right into the Packers and the Colts game. Coming up this Sunday, I believe the game is at noon, if I'm not mistaken. It is
It is a
on,
nooner. It is
on
CBS.
nope, it's on Fox.
It's not. It's not CBS.
ESPN tells me it's on Fox. I'm looking at it right now.
Let me look at Packers schedule. I swear to God, that said CBS.
I'm staring at Fox, so maybe we have.
Mother. What the
Yeah,
hell?
because Greg Olson and company are commentating the
Oh,
game.
that's right. That should have tipped me off. Yeah.
That's
There we
okay.
go.
That's okay.
We get the better Fox.
I'm so happy we don't get Tom Brady.
Yeah. Shelling out Tostitos during the game.
Yep. So a little bit of history on the Packers and Colts. Packers are 20, 23, and 1 while facing the Colts. It'll be the first time in their history that they have opened the season at home against Indy. The Packers are 12 and 9 against the Colts while at home, and it's the first visit to Lambeau for Indianapolis since 2016. Their last meeting was a 34-31 OT loss during Week 11 of the 2020 season, the COVID year. I think that was a primetime game on Sunday night, wasn't it? I'm not mistaken. I think it was, but I'm not entirely sure. I
Let
think.
me look at the box score again.
But the Packers have won their last 11 home openers, the longest streak in franchise history, and the longest streak running in the NFL currently. Do you have the box score, Jordan?
It looks like it was late
A
afternoon game.
3:30 game. I'm pretty sure
Yes.
Keith, shout out Keith, calls that a primetime game, or he doesn't. I forget what that argument was.
It's not a primetime
Not a
game.
primetime game. Well, this is on Thanksgiving. Um, so regardless, heading into this game, Uh, Packers obviously a little dinged up, and the Colts are as well. Packers had four participants limited in practice, and those are Corey Ballantyne with an oblique injury, Kenny Clark with a toe injury, Josh Jacobs with a back injury, and Marshawn Lloyd with a hamstring injury. Ezra Cooper was listed on the injury report with a knee injury, but he was a full participant, and Jordan Love did not participate with his MCL strain. For the Colts, a lot of big names on this. I'm sorry, a couple big names on this list for them. Julian Blackman has a shoulder injury. Their safety, he did not participate. DeForest Buckner, their star defensive tackle, has a back injury. He did not participate. Josh Downs, their sophomore wide receiver, was limited in practice with an ankle injury. Quiddy Paye had a hamstring injury. He did not participate. And kicker Matt Gay has a hernia, and he was a full participant in practice.
That sounds painful.
Hernias, yeah, I can't imagine they're fun.
Kicking with a hernia?
Can't imagine they're fun. So, luckily, he's not doing a whole lot of hard physical work, but I can't imagine the big swing of the leg.
Kicking?
I'm still saying, but like he's not getting hit, you know, like he's not getting
You don't know
tackled.
that.
I would hope they don't put him in that situation with a hernia. So,
Oh,
looking at all of that, couple of things to watch for. Starting with first and foremost, obviously Malik Willis, Jordan Love. Unless his silly little body decides to be cleared for a game, he's not going to be playing against the Colts this week because of his MCL strain. But like we said earlier, all things considered, that's a plus for them that he didn't tear his ACL or have some severe ligament damage. Um, Matt LaFleur did confirm that Willis will be the starting in place of Love, no matter how long Love will be out. But I did see today that Sean Clifford took snaps with the ones along with Malik Willis. So, which like I know for audio listeners, Jordan rolled his eyes, and I think that that's probably a good idea. Like as annoying as it is, and but we don't know how Malik Willis is going to look, and we don't necessarily know like obviously, if Malik Willis gets injured, they're going to need Sean Clifford to play. So getting them both equal reps with the ones is probably just the best idea, even if Malik Willis will be the starter going into Sunday. So, report from Tom Silverstein, as I had mentioned up top. Quote, forget what LaFleur said about the possibility of Love being cleared for that game. A source familiar with the situation said Love is not playing, and any talk about him playing, about him being available is just Matt LaFleur's attempt to make the Colts prepare for two game plans. Um, which like that's just coach talk. That's all that happens with that. So, notably, I think it was not debunked, but talked about earlier in the week about bringing in Ryan Tannehill or a different veteran to step in place to be the backup ahead of Malik Willis. I think that was a long shot to begin with, considering they had just traded a pick, albeit a seventh rounder for Malik Willis, to come and have this gig. So to I guess think that they were going to bring in a veteran at this point, I think was a little naive and a little hopeful on some people's parts. But at this point, it's Malik Willis' show until it isn't, and his fourth start on Sunday will. I'm sorry, the game on Sunday will be his fourth start in the NFL, but has yet to throw up a passing touchdown or throw for more than 100 yards. So I think we're going to see a strong dose of the run game, Jordan.
I would agree with that. I have a lot of thoughts on this, Ryan Tannehill or just put in free agent.
Give me your thoughts on Ryan Tannehill or a different veteran quarterback that could have been brought in to start over Malik Willis.
I think it's very easy for us, and we're fans. It's like, oh, are they going to bring in this? Or these questions have to be asked. It would be no different than what they are already going with Malik Willis, who they traded for 2 weeks ago, who as going through all this stuff and as he's getting the attention going into his first start as a Packer. For a situation that no one really wanted to see coming this soon. Um, Having someone walk into the building midweek, days after Jordan Love's injury. Is it any different than what's going on with Malik Willis? Like, it's not. It's
No,
really not.
it's not.
So why wouldn't you just see what you have first, knowing that this could be 2, 3 games? I say this as someone that is not very bullish on Malik Willis. I think
Yeah,
the closer that we get to this game, I think it could be really dreadful.
it could be tough.
Um, and perhaps we see Sean Clifford. I just don't think if you're looking at picking up guys off the street, I know for every Joe Flacco, it raises the possibility that this magical silver bullet can get teams out of the schneid or predicament that they are in with their injured starting cornerback or underperforming quarterback
Hmm.
or whatever. But it's just I don't know. I'm not someone. The more I've gotten familiar or just kind of see how things work and processes and routines and stuff like that, it's like the more this like easy fixed solution just doesn't. It's rare, more rare than we give it credit for. And sometimes you just gotta put up your hands and be like, "There's no good solution." You just kind of have to muster through it and hope you win ugly games, which I think if the Packers win on Sunday, it's going to have to be like that.
Yeah, I agree. I sort of wholeheartedly. My apologies. I guess to play not devil's advocate, but just to play the other side of that opinion, talking about bringing in a veteran just to play over Malik Willis. I don't think the idea was to bring in somebody that would be more familiar with the game plan. I think it would be to bring in somebody that they think has not think that they know has performed at the NFL level, like Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, Joe Flacco plays for the Colts, but to play
Yeah.
someone like Joe Flacco or Jameis Winston or any of these backups that were starters at one point versus someone like Malik Willis, who the Titans drafted, I think, in 22, if I'm not mistaken, and then benched for a year as Ryan Tannehill, or not benched, but kept them as the backup as Ryan Tannehill was still playing. And then they go and draft Will Levis in the second round last year after his infamous tumble. And then instead of going to Malik Willis in his second year after Ryan Tannehill gets benched, they instead go to Will Levis. And then Malik Willis was traded this offseason to the Packers. So, like, I think the idea from fans who are thinking about that is like, okay, Malik Willis hasn't shown us a whole lot, as I mentioned in my little preview about this segment, if you will. No touchdowns, hasn't thrown for 100 yards, and has been sacked 15 times, and called a 16th after his sack at the end of the game against Philly.
Oh, that includes
That
that
includes
too.
that one, okay. But
Yeah.
I think that's most of fans, and honestly, my concern with the Sunday is how effective will he really be when we haven't seen it before, and it's gonna be an experience for sure. I'm gonna try to get frustrated throughout the entire game. That's a try, not a promise. But I think this is an opportunity for Matt LaFleur to really play with his game plan and kind of flex that muscle of his and that sort of scheming, playmaking muscle of his to make Malik Willis succeed and put him in a place to succeed. Like I would imagine they're going to rely on the run game a whole lot, but like Malik Willis has a cannon. The only issue is that you don't know where it's going. Like he's got a good arm, but it's there's no finesse to it. And so I was
No.
talking about this with a buddy earlier today, and I expect a lot of in rhythm throws from Malik Willis, like a lot of checkdowns to running backs in the flat, a lot of checkdowns to little mini out routes by the line of scrimmage to tight ends or Jaden Reed. And then if those go well, slants over the middle to try and pick up some short yardage. And if everything is going well, like if the offense is humming and they can get in some of these in rhythm throws, maybe one or two deep balls to Christian Watson because he's the only player that can catch up to a an errant bomb down the field if it's overthrown. And so
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of dink and dunk with this offense come this week. I think the biggest thing for this offense and Malik Willis in general is that the first drive isn't a three and out. Like you just can't start that slow. You have to be able to get him into a rhythm to start the game because I think we've talked about it ad nauseum with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love last year. Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago, Jordan Love last year, obviously. But the three notes to start games are just killer because they have their scripted 15, 20 plays that they start games with, and it's meant to sort of flow, right? Everything's meant to build off of the last play. Run play succeeds, that opens up the play action to a deep shot, or they give a different look that opens up somebody over the middle. And if they are stopping those plays and they go three and out, there isn't really a whole lot of flow and a whole lot of rhythm there to build off of. And so that'll be like a critical point in the juncture in the a critical point in the flow of this game and how well they're going to do it as an offense is can they succeed on the first drive? And success, I think, is 10, 15 plays. Like, that's a pretty long, sustained drive. But even if it ends up as a field goal, I'd be more than happy with that if it shows that they can move the ball down the field. If they don't cross midfield, it's going to be a problem for the rest of the game moving forward. I think.
Yeah, the longer drive, the field position is going to be very key. Longer drives. I mean, if you have a long drive, that presumably you're getting into scoring position, whether that's field goal or whether it's touchdown. I just think, you know, I'm not sure if a lot of grace will be given to Matt LaFleur in the moment, but how he operates and how he comes into Sunday with a game plan that's going to look dramatically different than what it would be with Jordan Love. We're not going to probably have that perspective in the moment if the Packers are down 27-6 in the
Right.
third quarter or whatever.
Right.
But I just don't think there's like, what is your confidence level in Malik Willis going into this game? Out of scale 1 to 10, one being like
4.
that, or 10 being 4. Yeah, like
It's not high.
it's not high. If you get a passable game out of it, maybe that gets you into it. But there are so many factors at play of how, like, we're just talking about where the ball is positioned, where it's on the field, like what the drives look like. We'll get into the defense element of it because I think that is the biggest thing that's going to happen in this game.
Yeah.
It's just like you could have all these things about how you set it up, and once the game gets into rhythm, and whether you're playing with the lead, whether you're going for the lead, or whether you're deep, like everything could just go out the window in a matter of 10 game minutes. You know what I mean? It just like that's where it's very daunting to think about this game like beforehand because our confidence level is not very high, despite having some pieces that can help soldier it on. But again, you're starting a quarterback that just got into the building like 2 weeks ago. He's going to play for his fourth offensive coordinator in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's legitimately just
It's
insane.
just bad for development.
Bad for development. And it's not a Malik Will. It's you could say it's, oh, look at another Brett Hundley, another Scott Tolzien, like
Scott
that I'm
Dillon
sure is
got
gonna,
wins, dude.
he did get wins and he did get a tie. But I just say like I could hear those phone calls in my head of like on Milwaukee Green Bay radio stations after the game, but
Shut up
it's just
1075.
like there you go. But you just looking at it very clear eyed with this situation, it's like you're gonna have to eat it. It's just a matter of how much you have to take your lumps.
I'm spreading misinformation on the internet. Scott Tolzien did not get wins.
Well, there you go. You got a tie.
He had one loss and one
It's
tie.
close.
Yeah. Um, but
Missed it by that
that
much.
much. But yeah, I mean that's it entirely. This is from Willis from Matt Stuman with the Athletic. Quote: "That's the only way you get better is reps, and live game reps would definitely be a different feel." Willis said. At this point, I've only played 3 games and I was rookie. Call it what you wanted to. I wasn't ready yet, but I had to go in, and I'm a different player than then. But control what you can control. It's not about what you know; it's what you can prove on the field. And that's a great point by him too. Like that was 2 years ago. He's had a lot of time to develop since then. Hopefully he can make the most of it. But Yeah, I wouldn't expect a lot of like finesse throws from Malik Willis this game. I would be surprised if they run or if they have him throw any at all out routes towards the sideline. Like I just don't think that's a good decision.
Don't put him in dangerous positions like
Right.
that.
Yeah, just don't put him in those situations because that if it's a bad throw, it's a pick six waiting to happen. Like those are the most dangerous throws in the game for a quarterback to throw in terms of getting intercepted. But yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I think to not move on, but to just touch on the offense a little more. It's going to be an important game from the running backs. They have to be able to establish the run because if they can't run, then it's going to be all on Malik Willis' shoulders, and that isn't going to go well. I don't think. So like Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson, and if Marshawn Lloyd plays, they're all going to need to be. I mean, even Jaden Reed, like in the couple of gadget plays they run him with, they just need to be effective. And we need to see second half Josh Jacobs the entire game this week. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Jacobs runs for 100, 150 yards on 20, 25 carries. That would not surprise me whatsoever.
I'd be more than that
I
if everything it if game control works in the Packers' favor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like it's out of necessity because how much do they trust Malik Willis to be a quarterback that plays in a similar fashion to Jordan Love, right? Like they can't take that play split between passes and rushes and directly move it to how Malik Willis plays. They just can't. Like
Yeah.
it's just not in the cards for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is where if you're gonna see Malik Willis succeed, it's gonna be somehow making big plays with his arm or get him moving on his feet. If it's gonna look very different than like having Jordan Love manipulate defenses or finding the perfect throws, like it's I don't know, like it could be the difference between looking at a Packers like offense, like how it would be, even last week in Brazil, even if there wasn't it wasn't flawless execution, they left a lot of meat on the bone, or it could look like a UFL game, an XFL game, like that is kind of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm trying to see if I can find his rushing totals quick to see if what he had for his rushing attempts. So in his three games, rather in his three started games in 2022, his rookie season, he had 27 attempts on 123 yards and a touchdown. So he definitely has like the running capability. His long was 17 and had 8 first downs with his legs. So he has that aspect of his game too to utilize. And so that's a wrinkle that Matt LaFleur can throw and do. I'm not sure how many options we're gonna see with Malik Willis and Josh Jacobs and such, but that could be something as like a quote unquote trick play that they could run to just give the defense a different look and get a big gain out of it, hopefully. So he does have that aspect and we'll probably see it on Sunday.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
the Colts quarterback might
is
might
like
be
is like Malik Willis on steroids and like is the inspired version of him.
yeah,
Anthony
it's I
Richardson
mean,
with a certified howitzer attached to his shoulder. Yeah, that
yeah,
man that man can throw the football.
he might single-handedly be the engine to this win if the Colts pull it out.
Yeah, yeah. I think defending Anthony Richardson is going to be tough. What I am encouraged about is that they just keep this game plan from week one to week two. Like that's just the same game plan that they had to do with Jalen Hurts. I mean, look at the last time they played the Eagles, Jordan. 100 and what, 50 yards on the ground for Jalen Hurts, and
Last week?
nope. The
Oh, the 2022 game?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then last week they hold Jalen Hurts to a pretty decent night rushing, like a decent defensive wise, until the couple of miscues late allowed him to get some more rushing yards, more than what you think they would have held them to the rest of the game if you had watched the rest of the game. And so I think that's a bright spot and just a coincidence for this team is that they get to run out the same sort of defensive style and game plan as they would have for Jalen Hurts for for Anthony Richardson because Jalen Hurts doesn't have as big of an arm as Anthony Richardson does, but he's the same type of quarterback where he can tuck and run it at any given point should he want to. And I think Anthony Richardson is more um, not adept, but more willing to do that than Jalen Hurts has been in the last year and last game. And so that's a bright spot. He went 6 carries for 56 yards against Houston in Week 1, 32 of which were on scrambles, and he did have a rushing touchdown, and he was their rushing leader, notably not Jonathan Taylor. So he's good. He's an athlete. I'll put it that way. He's an athlete.
Yeah, I think this could be where, yeah, this will be his sixth start. Obviously, rookie season was dashed early on with the shoulder injury. I just think for like this is someone that was talked about as like being not raw, but like only scratching the surface with what the potential that he has, and yet he's still doing these things like the six. I read Ben Solik's piece. He moved from the Ringer to ESPN over the summer. The 65-yard touchdown that Anthony Richardson threw to Alec Pierce, most of which were all in the air. It was the third highest air yards for a touchdown in since they started tracking like next gen stats.
Yeah, it was fucking launched, dude.
Yeah,
Apologize for my French, but it was launched, and he was falling down. Like
yeah,
it was.
like, and those are things that like Jordan Love can do, but there's a
No, I'm
difference.
sorry.
You don't think so?
I love Jordan Love as much as the next person. Jordan Love is not throwing a 60-yard bomb off his back foot falling down. He doesn't have the arm strength. We haven't. If he can, we
Mm,
have not seen it.
no,
But
but we also,
that was all arm strength.
yeah,
He was not stepping into it. He was
no.
falling backwards and threw it 65 yards in the air. It was silly. It was silly.
So it's gonna be very important to defend vertically. Another stat that I found in preparing for the pod had the highest average depth of target. Again, he was only 9 of 19. I legitimately did not see any other game besides the Packer game, so I don't know why he only was 9 of 19.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? Like, why aren't they trying him up more? But yeah, to have that much high of a or the highest average depth of target for week one is legitimately insane. Like that is
Yeah,
crazy.
he was 919 with 212 yards. Like
Just
if you
ridiculous.
take off the 65-yard touchdown, oh, math is hard. 12 minus 65 minus 12 is 53, so
Yeah,
47. Yeah, 153 on eight passes. Like that's not too bad either. Like eight passes
yeah.
for 150 yards isn't exactly bad. And so, yeah, I what a weird game. What a weird game that he played there. Not having double digit completions, but yet 200 yards is quite an insane stat line.
Very much so. I that's where again he has freakish potential of really boom or bust, and it's like this is the sixth start that he's making.
Yeah, I think that's just
I
the Anthony Richardson experience.
I think for me that's where like the difference in wanting the Packers to play, like again, we talked about it before the Eagles game and we talked about it after the Eagles game. It's like, yeah, you have to account for the quarterback's ability to extend plays, to get out of the pocket, to make throws on the run, to always have like a quarterback spy on him, or if it's zone plays out of your reach, then like what Keyshawn Nixon did on a sack to get Jalen Hurts last week was kind of the perfect example. But that has puts a lot of pressure sideline to sideline. however length of the field you go, like killing off drives with this defense, whether it's making tackles, big plays, like limiting big plays obviously is big, but there's just so many things that could add to like this getting out of hand or giving your best chance for Malik Willis and company to kind of get the offense on the right track. Like it scares me. It really scares me.
Yeah, I get it. He did have two touchdowns last week and an interception, so like I think the boomer bust power of Anthony Richardson is definitely still there. And like you had mentioned, sixth game he'll be starting. So he doesn't have the whole experience of being an NFL quarterback yet, but he's just an athlete, and historically, Packers don't do well with athletes. The defense has never
No,
been really able to stop those hyper athletic guys that can just beat you in more ways than one. So
yes.
um, it'll be an issue for sure. Did get pressured a lot though. Week one, 37.5 percent pressure rate. As I'm trying to pull up your stats that you had shared. Um, if you sort by not sort by, but like time to throw, he had the longest, sorry, ninth longest time to throw in the NFL last week amongst quarterbacks, 2.86 seconds, but yet had a 37.5 pressure rate, which was good for eighth worst in amongst the quarterbacks that played last week. So definitely held on to the ball, I think, a little bit. And did he take a sack? I think he had two sacks. Yeah, he was
Yes.
sacked twice last week. So having a lot of time to throw, but also um, taking sacks with that time, kind of the Justin Fields aspect of why his game didn't work, having time to throw but not getting rid of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just more of if you're it's or peak Russell Wilson
Yeah.
of the hero ball, scramble out of the pocket kind of thing. Like that's where right now Anthony Richardson just might be he really excels as stuff like that. It's going to be everything else that to become the complete quarterback that I think he can become, but
Mm-hmm.
it still could be early. It doesn't matter. Either way, this Packers defense is like when you meet all of that, and obviously Colts 2-point loss against what we think is going to be the AFC South Division winner, Texans. Like that's a hard fought loss, much like the Packers. There's just a lot of things that I think you could say they did well at, and it was kind of flipped on its head with their defense, as we'll get into. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just the thought of him being like a guy that can explode with big time throws, running on the move. It's really it's scary.
Yeah. Scary stuff. Scary hours for sure. All right. Let's move on to the other dynamic rusher on this team, Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor last week held to a paltry 16 carries, 48 yards, and a touchdown. Had his longest run of 7 yards, so not exactly the most impressive game from Jonathan Taylor. Um, but coming off of a week where they gave up 144 yards on 38 rushes from Saquon Barkley and three touchdowns to the man, uh, they got to find a way to contain him. The run defense just has to be better. Jonathan Taylor is capable of doing this stuff, like having a performance like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I forget if it was actually ever sourced to a real reporter, but the Jonathan Taylor for Christian Watson trade mocks and everything like that will be maybe a soft headline in during the broadcast this week of, hey, they could have had this guy instead of Christian Watson, etc. And if he ends up torching him, I'm sure that'll come up from fans as well. So, um, yeah, that's what I had to say on that little intro to Jonathan Taylor.
Also, Wisconsin homecoming for him, first time playing back in
Yep.
the state since he got out of that hellhole known as Camp Randall Stadium.
You are gonna be pissing off some folks, but I
Good
agree.
luck against Bama, everybody.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Um, yeah, I think Taylor he doesn't scare me like Saquon does, but we know the past experience is there.
Yeah,
Um, the proof is in the pudding, I should say. Um, I think for it's a different profile of Saquon Barkley. Like if you just get him the ball, whether it's running or in the flat, off screens, whatever, that's a playmaker. Jonathan Taylor is more of a throwback in that way, but that doesn't mean that we can still come away with seeing him just bruise through the middle of this defense and gash him that way. Like I think that's where it's going to be really interesting to see how this defense can hopefully look better. I think a lot of things factors at play just based on week one, play the Brazil factor, that field factor. There's a lot of variables, but they still didn't defend against the run very well.
nope. I mean, it was kind of just like the wear you down sort of attack from the Eagles. Like they played well against it to begin with. Saquon's first touchdown was a wheel route in the corner,
Yeah.
and so which like I watched a tiny bit of tape, and if Xavier McKinney doesn't slip, he probably breaks up that pass, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but as the game went on, they started running more, and gaps started opening up a little more, and that's just how the running game works, right? But I think you hit it um, on the head that Jonathan Taylor is sort of a back of a traditional running back, doesn't do a whole lot in the passing game. Over his 4 years, he has 123 catches on um, 150 targets for just short of 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. But in his big season, 2021, he only had 40 receptions in
Yeah.
17 games. So that's a little bit.
He's more him and Josh Jacobs different profile physically, but
Yeah, they
they're
can
more
do it, but they are usually doing their work on the ground versus through the air.
yeah. And really, if we're thinking about it, or if we're talking about it, which we are, Colts don't need Jonathan Taylor to be, this bell cow back that he was 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Yep.
The guy that they paid him all this money. He's a good player, and maybe it doesn't live up to the you know average annual value of that contract, but still, if you get 80 yards out of Jonathan Taylor, but your offense is humming and Anthony Richardson is doing things to torment this Packers defense, you're going to come away with that and be like, yeah, that's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
That's where I think the what are you going to take away? It's easier to take away the run game, especially if it's a Jonathan bruising back like Jonathan Taylor.
Is it
But
for the Packers?
I don't. Well, that is like I again
I joke, but like we just haven't seen it yet with this new defense. It's been 1 week. I understand that,
exactly.
but
We
we have to see it.
we have to see it. I get very similar vibes, and they're not the same running back. So bear with me with this comparison, but just going into last year's week two against Atlanta with Bijan Robinson and thinking about just like how does this run defense hold up against someone like that? Like the jury is still out with everything defense related, as much as we saw some turnovers and playing defensively, but like until we have enough games under our belt, we can really say is have the changes that the Packers made defensively led to progress, led to positive results.
Right. I'm not sure I entirely get your comparison to Bijan Robinson there because he was dominant in that game against the Packers. He had 124 yards on the ground and 48 through the air. So, like I
What I'm trying to say is Jonathan Taylor just going to freaking
just run all over.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah. I'm trying to think of like Jalen Warren and Najee Harris in the Steelers game. I think is a better comparison as
Yeah,
they went crazy, kind of thing.
Tommy DeVito. We
Oh,
could name a whole
the Lions game, Dave Montgomery, that game
yes.
where they really ran over the Packers.
There are a lot of
There's a lot of
examples.
examples, believe it or not. So
Yeah, I yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something to watch for. It's going to be nerve wracking for sure because they just need to be better up front. They need to plug holes, and Quay needs to be better. Quay was pretty bad last week against the run. Just looked kind of lost in the shuffle as the blocks were getting set by the offensive line. He would just go to the wrong hole, and Saquon, who has great vision, admittedly, just bounce it out and go where Quay was, but then obviously vacated to go towards the hole he thought he's meant to go to. So yeah, they just need to be better. It just need to be better. That's all there is to it. Um, I'm gonna go to the one after this, Jordan. I'm gonna say ramping up the pass rush is another thing that they have to do. They only got home, I think, what, once or twice last week? Twice. Yeah, the Rashawn Gary one and the I can't think of what the other sack. I'm pulling it
Keyshawn
up now.
Nixon.
Yeah, that's why I can't think of it. 'Cause I don't think of it as a sack. Like
No.
it's not a pocket pressure sack. He was rolling out. He got tackled behind the line of scrimmage. It wasn't a traditional sack in my mind. So my apologies for my stubbornness that way. But only the one sack in the pocket, which was on a weird play where the Eagles thought the Packers had jumped off sides. They snap it. Rashawn Gary comes across with no resistance from Lane Johnson, gets the sack. Other than that, it wasn't a whole lot last week for pressuring Jalen Hurts. They kept him in the pocket and kept him, for the most part, uh, limited in his running game, but the pressure just weren't there. 17.1% blitz rate from the Packers, sixth lowest in week one. Uh, in in week one, they ranked 26th, which is sixth again, for pass rush win rate per ESPN and NFL Pro, which is like this premium stats site for the NFL.com. Put 14 pressures for Jalen Hurts on week one, but they allowed him the second highest time to throw at 3 seconds per pass. The Colts ranked fifth highest with 2.5, which meaning they were getting home quicker, right? Their D line was. Is that what that point is trying to make?
Yes, or the
C.J. Stroud had two.
throws are getting out quicker, or barely quicker, I should say.
Oh, Anthony Richardson was throwing quicker than. Let me see. Let me check out these stats quick. Try and find what's his name here. C.J. Stroud. Yeah, 3.02 seconds for C.J. Stroud to throw. I could find it. Regardless, the pass rush needs to get home. They just need to. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. It was one of my biggest sort of hubbubaloos that Rashawn Gary just needs to get home. He has the one sack I mentioned last week. I'm letting him have the sack. I wish he would have gotten one where he actually had beat his man and gotten through his man versus just going around him on a broken play. But the entirety of it, Preston needs to get home. I'd like to see Devontae Wyatt get up the middle and nab a sack. Same with Kenny Clark and Carl Brooks. Just make it hard for him. Make him uncomfortable in the pocket. Because if they can spy Anthony Richardson with a linebacker like Quay or with a linebacker like Edgerrin Cooper, who should be getting more playing time this week because he played so well last week, if you can make him comfortable and try and scramble, I would rely on those guys to go get a tackle and make him either a sack or a short gain or something like that, or make him throw a bad pass. So um, the pass rush I think is going to be important because we had said about in our first quote unquote segment that 30 second segment, my apologies, that 32 of Anthony Richardson's 56 rushing yards came on scrambles. That's over half of them. So if he's prone to scrambling, make him scramble it, but then make sure the linebackers are in a place to tackle him and not have a big play. Like I think
Yep.
that pass rush is critical this week. The Colts don't have super dynamic pass catchers. Adonai Mitchell, their rookie, is pretty good. Michael Pittman's is good. Michael Pittman is good, but Adonai Mitchell has like tools to be good. He didn't do a whole lot last week. Josh Downs is injured, and then Alec Pierce is their like third string, fourth string receiver kind of guy, and he caught the big touchdown. But other than that, like other than Michael Pittman, they don't have a whole lot of dynamic pass catchers in this offense. It's just Anthony Richardson making something out of nothing when he has to.
Yeah, that's where I think it's not a case of this isn't a Devonte Smith AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley,
No, absolutely not.
Dallas Goddard. Like I don't even know who the Colts tight end is. It used to be
Uh,
Malloy Cox, and
is
I
it?
believe he's
It's not Jack Doyle anymore, is it?
Jack Doyle. I think was the tight end when the Colts were last in Lambeau.
I mean, right. Uh, it
Um,
is Bilal Cox. I'm pretty sure. Kyle. I think Kyle Granson is one of their tight ends too. I'm looking at their depth chart now, but go on.
um, but I this the weapons that the Colts have pale in comparison to the Eagles.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep. It is
as
Kyle.
much
It
as
is Kylan Granson, by the way. He's a third year guy.
never heard of him in
Nope.
my life.
He didn't have a target last year.
Um, but Anthony Richardson being this one man wrecking crew literally could is going to test them. That's where I think whether it's like look at the blitz rate, the pressures and stuff like that, are things going to be that much different in how you set up defensively to how you defended Jalen Hurts that will make you think like if you're going to play that way, that doesn't mean it's going to be for the positive. Like how the formation going from 3-4 to 4-3, obviously we know like it if you looked at the Packers stats last year, it looked like they were this incredibly blitzing team and all yada yada yada. It's was the sake of well, they had a 3-4 defense and they're sending their edge rushers or linebackers, players that they consider linebackers, but were actually their edge rushers. It means that they're sending more than 4 or 5. But I just don't unless if we kind of see things change from week to week. That's where this is the halfway effect of are things going to be a little different if you put this on tape and the Colts look at that. How does the defense try to play like that chess move, checkmate, whatever you want to call it, effective putting together like a profile or a portfolio of different looks with different personnel, like that could be where things just differ as games go week to week. Just someone like Edrin Cooper, who, as you mentioned, 11 plays,
Played
looked
really well
good.
last week.
How does that him getting, let's just say, going up to 25 plays on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
how does that affect the defense? How does that affect the coverage that they or like QB spying on Anthony Richardson? Again,
Mm-hmm.
these are variables that just change things, but those wrinkles will have a bigger effect on how this defense evolves over time, and hopefully it evolves for the better than where it started.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. So, all right. The last point to make: Packers got to win the explosive plays. They had 9 against the Eagles in Week 1. 5 of them on the ground, 4 through the air. Good for second in the NFL during Week 1. Where the Colts had 6, 3 on the ground, 3 in through the air. Good for 15th, middle of the pack. Defensively, the Colts allowed 8, 6 rush, or 2 pass. Green Bay allowed 7, 3 rush, 4 pass. Um, the Colts go up 200 passing yards and 200 rushing yards for the first time since 2020. Obviously susceptible to the run, as they gave up 6 of their 8 explosive plays on the ground, and obviously gave up 200 yards, as I had just mentioned. 168 yards allowed after the catch for the Packers in Week 1, 68 yards over the expected per NFL Pro. Yeah, this is going to be important. I think where we really obviously miss Jordan Love is that if they can get these explosive plays on the ground and establish the run to be something good, you really can't take advantage of that reliably with Malik Willis down deep or big plays through the air versus what you could have done with Jordan Love. And I think that's where it's relatively unfortunate, obviously, again, that he's out for any time because if you can if they end up gashing the Colts for a lot of yards on the ground, it won't matter a whole lot in the first place. But obviously, if you're running the ball so well, you're just going to be opening up the passing game more, and that's just where we don't know how Malik Willis will perform. If he can, so be it. Good, they'll have a good chance of winning then, right? But the big plays on offense are going to be needed unless they really just go full time management or like clock management and control how long they have the ball and then get their defense rested up and things like that. But that requires long drives and that requires good play from everybody on offense, including your running backs and your quarterback to be able to get first downs on third down and things like that. So there's a couple different ways to do that, but yeah, if they can get a couple of those big pass plays and maybe get a few of them from Josh Jacobs, then not ring the bell, drink, do whatever you want to do from Emmanuel Wilson. That'll be helpful. So, um, yeah,
I think we see a lot of gadget plays. I think the Colts will be very keen to stuff those out because we know how Matt LaFleur can get a little cute sometimes. I think the cute rate is going to get a little higher with Malik Willis under center.
yep.
I really this could easily. It's not. I'm not looking forward to it, but I think I am fascinated by this. Could be, I believe it was being passed around of Justin Fields passing chart from week one
Oh
against
yeah, it
Falcons,
was all on the
and
outside.
it was all on the outside. It was not over the middle. It's someone likened it to like an umpire strike zone, like Angel Hernandez.
No, they likened it to an MLB pitcher about to be sent down.
Oh, there you go.
Because
Well,
they
either
had put
way,
they had put a square in the middle of the throwing chart, and there was no passes there.
like, is that any different than how it might look with Malik Willis?
I mean, it might. Like I think throws towards the edge are going to be dangerous for Malik Willis, and I'd rather him throw over the middle than throw it to the edge. Like
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's a less dangerous throw. It's just inherently. Like I think he'll have a lot of checkdowns out to the outside, but he's not going to throw 5, 6 yard out routes to the sideline. I just don't think they'll do it.
No, no. I don't know. I just think
Also, the
we,
Packers wide receivers are a lot more talented than Justin Fields are, like in Pittsburgh, and like Jaden Reed over the middle is more reliable than
it's about who's
Roman
throwing it
Wilson.
though.
I think is their second receiver in Pittsburgh, the
It
rookie.
is, yeah. But it is about who's throwing it. And
Yeah,
I think it's more of an effect of if you're gonna play a very conservative shell kind of game, you're gonna want to limit any possible throw that could get in the thicket of a defense and say, not that there's any harm. There's certainly plenty of harm in throwing out routes or throwing it past the hash marks because say a cornerback
Kenny Moore.
gets a good jump on it. Yeah.
He's more than
Slack eye.
capable.
Yeah. I that's where
Sorry, he's
we
he's
won't have
he's the nickelback, but regardless.
we won't really know until it actually happens of just, what this looks like. It could be really ugly in the best ways, or it could just be flat out ugly, and then we're just like contemplating a dire loss at Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Should we go to players to watch in our fantasy players?
Um.
Let's see if I have anything else to say.
No, I think we can do it. Players to watch. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I will go first since you went first last week. So my my first player to watch is going to be. I'm gonna go Jonathan Taylor. We just have to know.
Really?
Yeah, well, we just have to know if they can stop the run, and yeah, that's gonna be. We talked about it already. We just need to know if they can stop the run, and if Jonathan Taylor gets going, it's gonna be a problem. So we'll see.
I was gonna go Anthony Richardson before you even said that. I think you know, I could see this being feast, plenty of feast. I could see this being famine, and maybe the Packers turn it on and really get after him and force him into play making mistakes. You know, the talent is there, but it could fluctuate game to game, clearly. Um, yeah, just I think the potential that he has in really wrecking this defense could is high, but just whether he meets that potential is the big key.
Yep, 100%.
Do you have your Packer player to watch?
It's your turn.
Oh, okay. Um, I'm gonna go Jair.
Ooh,
bring it up from PFF, shall we? Uh, 6 targets, 4 catches, 108 yards.
70 of that is on one play.
Yeah, 67 was a long, 59 yards after catch. Obviously,
That's
bad
that's
field,
that's
but also
also the
bad
that's
beats.
also part of the big play.
And then obviously that touchdown. Um, Again, you're not defending AJ Brown primarily or getting some looks at Devonta Smith, but you're still going up against good quality receivers and Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, add in maybe a Josh Downs if he plays or someone else. But
I think he'll be
let's
on
start.
Michael Pittman for sure. I don't think they'll
Yeah,
switch him off
any
of.
more perimeter wide receiver,
Yeah,
outside wide receivers.
yeah.
I don't have a lot of patience for Jair. I get it.
Wow,
I'm just saying, like I understand it's game to game, but the guy, he is who he is. He wants to be. He's not the highest paid cornerback anymore after Patrick Surtain or and
Jalen
who else
Ramsey.
got paid recently? Jalen Ramsey. No, that was an extension. Someone else got paid big time. Doesn't matter. Um, but just you gotta give me something. Give me something.
He gave you an interception last week.
He did. He also gave it back with uh doing not meeting up expectations against AJ Brown, who I mean, I don't know who many expectation or I don't know how many cornerbacks actually get back at AJ Brown, but um yeah, I just want to see. I'm sick of living in the boom or bust world of Jair Alexander. That's kind of where I'm getting at.
I mean, that's kind of like the deal though with corners, right? Like your
I
your your
know.
your best lockdown corners are going to be paid the best, and for what it's worth, he's been good. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to see. Denzel Ward was paid, but not recently. Marshawn Lattimore wasn't recently. Marlon Humphrey, I don't think was recently. Patrick Surtain, Trevon Diggs. Start year is 2024, so the
Oh yeah, you might be. Yeah, you're definitely right.
yeah,
I
it's
thought it
yeah, it was
was.
Jalen
Yeah,
Ramsey. Yeah,
it is Jalen Ramsey.
yeah.
I saw the 24.1 as the extension that was tacked on. No,
No,
he's
that's
the
his.
highest paid corner again.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I won't be as critical. Like I was critical of him last week. Like we just need to. Jair is who he is. Love him or hate him, he is who he is. And so long as he's making plays, like I will have hopefully grace with him through some of the unknowing parts that of the decisions that he makes, like running it out. So,
Yeah.
my Packer to watch is going to be Josh Jacobs. Got to see it. Same thing. Same. We saw it. We need to see the defense uh, stop the run. We need to see the offense run and have a good run game. I'd like to see 100 yards from either him or Emmanuel Wilson this week. I think the Emmanuel Wilson 100-yard bet prop is probably pretty high. I don't expect it, but one of them should be eclipsing that mark. If not, both of them should be eclipsing 150, in my
I
opinion.
think it's very interesting that neither of us picked Malik Willis.
Because he's not a player to watch. The,
He
the
will be
the
though.
the game isn't going to be well. Yeah, everyone watches the quarterback. The game isn't going to run with Malik Willis. Like it's not going to be driven by Malik Willis. It's going to be driven by the run game. I think it has to be. If they're featuring
I
Malik
would
Willis
agree.
in their offense the entire game, there's something's gone wrong. Whether it's the game plan or injuries, something's gone wrong.
Players just start dropping out the field like the Dark Knight Rises.
Pretty
And
much.
Hines Ward looks back and be like, "What?
Who is your
What?"
who is your fantasy player?
Um, I hit on Jaden Reed last week.
You did hit on
Felt pretty
Jaden
good
Reed.
about that. That was my only fantasy win of the week last week. Um, I kind of want to go back to the well again.
and go Anthony Richardson.
I know I'm only picking Packer.
Oh, okay. And go back with Jaden Reed.
I mean, he's got to have a big play. It's just a matter of how many
Yeah, I think the
that
issue is
actually
that it's Malik Willis throwing, not Jordan Love.
could be a
It
reverse
could be reverse. That is definitely an option. Is that who you're going
jet
with?
sweep. I'll go Jan Reed again. Back to the well.
I'm sticking with Josh Jacobs. I think he's primed for a good performance. All right, Jordan. Score predictions.
Colts 31,
Oh my God.
Packers 12.
I told y'all that I bet on the Packers to win their first 5 games, and I would be doing so regardless. I already lost the bet, but it doesn't mean I'm tearing down my optimism. Packers 20, 20. Colts 17. That's what I'm going with. Go Packers.
Interesting.
Go Packers.
Actually, can I revise my fantasy play of the week?
If you can.
Braden Narvison.
That's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick. Not a bad pick whatsoever. So,
Oh,
all right, folks, that does it for this episode of Talk of the Tundra. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in your podcast feeds on Sunday as the game finishes out. Maybe Monday, depending on when we get it up. But after the Colts game, how about that? Packers Colts game, noon o'clock on Sunday. Thank you for listening. Go check out the rest of the GSPN pods wherever you find your podcast. Subscribe to the Substack at gspn.info. $8 a month to get ad-free podcasts as well as all of the GSPN After Darks. Today is Wednesday. Did you record the new GSPN After Dark today, Jordan?
hmm
You want to tell the people what it's about?
we inspired by the the recent Oasis reunion.
Wonderwall.
Adam McGee, Andrew Snyder, and I drafted, not drafted, we talked about bands that we'd like to see reunited, or as you will hear, certain eras of bands that we'd like to see. And finished with like more of like, talked a lot about the Red Hot Chili Peppers by the end of it. And then, yeah, you'll understand this when you subscribe to GSPN Substack and get all the perks of GSPN After Dark. Get written pieces, get whatever your heart's desire, just more stuff from us because that's what we're gonna give it to.
That's right. That's right.
Like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, we're just giving it away.
Oh my god. Oh my god. All right, folks. Upon that groan is is the end of the pod. Thank you for listening, and regrettably, Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.